Fade.ext. Wyoming Territory winter. Late afternoon, 1870 sky is the color of ash. Wind howls through brittle cottonwoods. Snow whips across the vast, open plains. The land looks endless, raw, and hungry. Somewhere out here, men disappear without a sound, and no one mourns them. We push in on a dusty trading post, standing lonely against the wind like a broken tooth in the mouth of the frontier. A rusted sign swings, creaking, a few horses tied outside, a wagon wheel, half buried in snow. Inside, the room smells of tobacco, blood, and unwashed wool. The fireplace spits. For men sit around a table, all eyes turned toward one transaction. A girl, no older than 17, stands barefoot in the center of the room. Her ankles are raw, her arms bruised. A thin deerskin shift clings to her like second skin. She stares, straight ahead and blinking, unreadable. Her long, black hair is tangled, but not bowed. Her silence is not fear, it's defiance. An old trader leans against a barrel, chewing a matchstick. Trader smirking refused to marry their best warrior. They say, ran into the woods instead. Pauses which, maybe, or just proud. Bystander number 1, she's got the look of a hawk. Dangerous girl. Bystander number 2, that rancher's lost his mind if he's taking her home. The murmurs grow quiet as John Cartwright steps forward. He's 52, tall, lean as bone, with a beard like rusted wire. One eye slightly squints from an old war injury. His coat hangs heavy with snow. A man used to silence, used to burying things deep. He tosses down a pouch. Silver coins spill across the counter. Trader shrugging. Your funeral. Cartwright doesn't reply, just looks the girl in the eye. Not with hunger, not with pity, just acknowledgement. Clothes on, her eyes, black as obsidian and filled with fire. Ext. Wyoming plains. Night. Cartwright rides through the white storm, hunched forward, reins stiff in his gloved hands. The girl sits behind him on the horse, silent, unmoving, wrapped in an old army blanket. Her small fingers grip the saddle horn, knuckles white. The wind screams around them like wolves. In the distance, a wolf howls, low and mournful. Cartwright doesn't flinch. The girl tilts her head slightly, listens. Voice over Cartwright's burdens you carry not in your hands, but in the silence of someone else's pain. Int. Cartwright's ranch house. Later that night, log cabin is sturdy but aged. Smoke curls from the chimney. Inside, it's dim and cold, lit by a single lantern. Cartwright opens the door, stomps snow off his boots. The girl stands just inside the threshold, looking at the floorboards like they might swallow her whole. He gestures toward a chair near the fireplace. She doesn't move. Clothes on. Cartwright's weathered face, tired eyes. He's not sure what to say. He places a bowl of stew on the table, then bread, then a blanket on a small cot in the corner. She still doesn't speak. He doesn't press. He walks to his own room, closes the door. Ext. Town saloon. The next day, whispers spread fast in a town like this. Bartender to a customer. You hear Cartwright. About that girl, the Lakota one, the warrior refuser. Customer, she's cursed. I swear it. Whole tribe wanted her gone. Even their medicine man spit at her feet. Ext. Cartwright's ranch. That afternoon, Cartwright chops wood. The girl watches from a distance, kneeling by the barn. Her eyes are always moving, sharp. She notices everything. His limp, his old saddle, the broken fence. He catches her watching. She looks away. He doesn't speak, just keeps chopping. Int. Barn. That night, the girl has made herself a bed in the hayloft. She curls on one side, awake, staring at the rafters. Below her, Cartwright enters quietly with a lantern. He doesn't go up. Cartwright, you got a name. Silence. Cartwright can't. Mine's John. Cartwright. I ain't got nothing fancy to offer you. Just space to sleep and a roof to hold the snow. She turns her back to him. He watches her for a long moment, then walks out. Ext. Ranch porch. Moments later, Cartwright lights a pipe, looks out at the black forest. Behind him, the girl appears, silently in the doorway, watching the snow fall, her breath clouds in the air. He doesn't turn. Voice dash over Cartwright. They said she wouldn't speak, because she had no soul left to share. But I think she just didn't trust the world to deserve her words. Int. Ranch house morning. Cartwright finds a small wooden carving on the table. A bear, rough, but made with care. He picks it up, turns it in his hands. She stands in the corner, arms crossed, still silent. He places it back on the table, nods once. That's all. EXT was near ranch. A few days later they walk together silently, he with his rifle, she carrying a bucket for water. A hawk screams overhead. She stops, looks up, then points. Cartwright hawk. She nods once. Their first shared word. He smiles faintly, doesn't say anything more. EXT. Plains. Nightfall sits on the porch. She sits on the steps below, just a few feet away. Stillness between them, not hostile, not friendly, just shared survival. The wind kicks up. A gust rattles the windows. She doesn't flinch. Inside the house, the fire crackles. Voice over Cartwright. I didn't know what I was buying that day. Not a servant, not a daughter. Just another soul too tired to run anymore. Fade to black. Fade in. Ext. Cartwright's RANCH. Early morning. Days later. Winter has grown crueler. The frost bites at the window panes. Snow drifts now reach the windowsill. The soil is rock hard. Nothing grows. A single raven circles above. Its call, sharp in the cold silence. John Cartwright steps out, bundled tight in wool and leather. Steam rises from his breath. He looks across his land and sees only death, a sheep carcass half covered in snow. Near the tree line, coyotes got to it overnight. From the barn, she watches him, silent, unblinking. She still won't eat at the table, still sleeps in the hayloft with a hunting knife tucked beneath her blanket. Cartwright hasn't seen her sleep not once. Int. Cartwright's bedroom. Night walls creak. Wind moans like it's mourning something. Cartwright sits at the edge of his bed, holding an old photograph in trembling fingers. A boy in a Confederate coat, smiling. Barely 18. A woman beside him, sun in her eyes. Laughter frozen in the black and white. He folds the photo back into a tin box, pushes it into a drawer. Voice dash over Cartwright. My boy never came back from Virginia. My wife followed him in silence to Springs later. Left only her ring and a locked door behind. A floorboard shifts. He looks up. The girl stands just outside his door, barefoot, still as a shadow. She stares at him with no fear, no softness either. Just recognition. Pain knows pain. He says nothing. She turns, disappears into the dark. EXT. RANCH. Night. A blizzard hits. Snow slams sideways across the land. The roof groans under the weight. Inside the barn, animals stamp and huff nervously. Cartwright grabs his lantern and coat. EXT. Barn. Moments later bursts in, expecting to find her curled up in the loft. But she's outside, barefoot in the storm, struggling to cover a shivering, cold with her own worn blanket. Her hair whips across her face. Her hands tremble with cold. He stares stunned. She's speaking softly to the Colt and Lakota, voice barely audible over the wind. Cartwright rushes over, wraps her in his coat. She fights it off. Cartwright, what in God's name? She shakes her head, just keeps patting the cold side, her teeth chattering. He kneels beside her, pulls the blanket tighter around the animal. He looks at her. Really looks. She isn't a prisoner. She isn't even a child. She's someone who still believes in saving what can't save itself. That night, for the first time, she sleeps inside the house, still near the fire, still not at the table, but closer. Int. Ranch kitchen. Don Cartwright brews coffee. She sits on the floor nearby, legs tucked under her. He places a wooden plate beside her. She glances up, takes the bread quietly. He watches her eat, like watching a deer eat from your hand. Later that week, Workshop. Cartwright discovers a small pile of wood carvings. Hidden in a corner, tiny, intricate figures, a bear mid-roar, a fox in stride, a bird mid-flight. He picks one up. A dot behind him. Her shadow appears. She doesn't speak, but watches closely. He gestures to the table, returns minutes later with paper and charcoal. Places it in front of her. An offering. She sits, takes the charcoal like it's a weapon, then begins to draw. She sketches a man tall, powerful, with a scar slashing across his chest. His face is twisted in anger. Another figure, a younger boy, lies on the ground beneath him, speared. Her hands shake when she stops. Cartwright doesn't ask. He doesn't need to. Voice over Cartwright. Some wounds in on the skin, there, under the bones, and hers bled with every line she drew. Later that evening, front porch sits beside him again. Snowflakes drift like ash in the dark. He holds out a piece of dried meat. She takes it without looking. He points to the sky. Cartwright, bear. That's Ursa Major. She tilts her head. Her softly motto. He blinks. She just gave him a word. Cartwright gently modeled. She nods, points to another. Cluster of stars, her Wikipedia Wogzilla. Falling stars. He tries to repeat it, clumsy. She smirks barely. Voice over Cartwright. I thought I was teaching her English. Turns out, she was teaching me to listen. INT. Ranch house deep night. Something rustles outside. Cartwright grabs his rifle, peers through the frosted glass. AWOLF large. Silver Gray stands near the tree line, staring at the house. His eyes glow in the moonlight. He moves toward the door, cocks the rifle, but behind him, she appears. Slow. Calm. She gently lowers the barrel with one hand, then walks out barefoot into the snow. Cartwright, hey, she raises her hand. The wolf watches her, then slowly turns, pads into the woods without a sound. She returns, eyes shining. Not with pride, with purpose. Cartwright just stares. That night, she sleeps by the fire. He doesn't go to bed, just watches the flames flicker and listens to the wind hush for the first time in months. Voice over Cartwright. We were the ghosts, under one roof, both haunted, both hungry for something we couldn't name. But the more she stayed, the less the house creaked at night. Fade to black. Fade in. Ext. Wyoming Territory. Early morning. A few weeks later, snow stretches to the horizon like a white graveyard. Trees stand skeletal in the cold. Crows scream in the sky, circling smoke. In the distance, a small homestead smolders. The roof collapsed. Animals gutted. Burn marks snake across the wooden fence. Voice over Cartwright. They came down through the pass like wolves starved along. Bandits. Drifters. Godless men with fire in their hearts and rope on their saddles. Cartwright rides slowly past the wreckage. A woman's shawl, frozen stiff, hangs from a branch. No survivors. EXT. Cartwright's ranch. That night inside, Cartwright stokes the fire. The girl Kinta, though he doesn't know her name yet, sits in the corner, working on a carving. Suddenly, the horses outside shriek. Cartwright leaps up, grabs his rifle. But when he opens the door, she's gone. Her coat still hangs by the door. Tracks lead out into the snow. Voice dash over Cartwright. At first, I thought she ran. The sight of silence was better than trust. But the trail was fast. Desperate, she didn't run away. She ran toward something, or worse, away from someone. EXT. FOREST. Late night. Cartwright tracks her boot prints into the thick woods. The cold bites harder here. Moonlight cuts through the bare branches like knives. Then a twig snaps. He spins. Too late. Two men, grimy, cruel-faced, rifles slung across their back, step from behind trees. Man number one, where's the girl? Old man. Man number two, you setting up your own little tribe out here. Heard you bought yourself a savage. Cartwright lifts his rifle, but they move quicker. A gunshot cracks, misses his head by inches. He ducks, rolls behind a log, fires blindly. One bullet catches man number one in the leg. He screams. Cartwright turns toward the second man, but the barrel slams into his jaw. He crashes into the snow, dazed. Blood pours from his temple. Man number two stands over him, cocking his rifle. Man number two should have left her where you found her. Suddenly, thwip, an arrow rips through the man's neck. He gurgles, stumbles back, drops dead in the snow. Another figure steps from the trees. Tall, shoulders broad as oxen, face marked by scars and wisdom. Tribal leather cloak flapping in the wind. He doesn't speak, just yanks the arrow free. Cartwright stares, coughing blood. Cartwright, you ain't with them. The man doesn't answer. He kneels beside the dying bandit, checks for breath. None. Then man flatly, you're bleeding. Cartwright groaning, you noticed. The man helps him up with surprising gentleness. Man, she is called Kinta, Lakota blood. Cartwright's eyes widen. Cartwright, you know her? Man, I knew her brother, rode beside him in war. She ran not to escape, but to protect you. She heard men were coming. She feared your house would burn too. Cartwright staggers, leans against a tree. Cartwright, who are you? Man, Elon. He lifts Cartwright's arm over his shoulder. Elon, if we don't move, she'll bleed alone. EXT. Deep forest stomp to men move through the wilderness like smashed wolves. Cartwright limps, gritting through pain. Elon glides across the snow without a sound. They say little, mistrust heavy between them. Cartwright scans the terrain, clutching his rifle. Cartwright, you always sneak up behind folks and save their hide? Elon, without turning, only the foolish ones who walk into traps. A beat. Cartwright, you in love with her? Elon stops, turns slowly. Elan, that's not your question to ask, and not her burden to answer. They walk again, side by side, both carrying more weight than what's on their backs. Snowy ridge, hours later tracks appear again, bare feet, dragging. Blood drops in the snow. Cartwright kneels beside them. Cartwright, she's hurt. Elan scans the horizon. Elan, if she's bleeding, she won't last another night out here. .ext. Gulch, twilight, a natural rock basin carved by snowmelt and time. Wind howls between the walls. At the bottom, Kinda. She's cornered, bleeding from the arm, holding a sharpened stick like a spear, her hair matted with ice, eyes wide with terror, but she doesn't back down. Cartwright slides down first, slowly. Weapon lowered. Elan follows but stays back. Cartwright, Kinda, it's all right. You don't have to fight. She flinches at the name. Elan steps forward. Elan, South Lakota, Betawiyaka. My little bird. You don't have to be alone. She breaks. The stick falls. Her knees buckle. She falls into Ellen's arms. She weeps hard. Ragged sobs torn from a chest that's held them far too long. Cartwright watches, stunned. He doesn't understand the words, but he doesn't need to. Her grief reaches through language. Voice over. Cartwright, I didn't know what he said, but I felt it like thunder in my bones. It wasn't just her pain. It was the echo of every soul that's ever been torn from their home and still found the strength to care. .ext. Was later that night intends to Kinna's wound with herbs. Cartwright starts a fire. Silence. Not cold anymore, thick with something unspoken. Elan looks across the flames. Elan, you bought her. Why? Cartwright doesn't flinch. Cartwright, because no one else would have let her live. Elan studies him, then nods once. Elan, we move at sunrise. Fade to black. Fade in. Cartwrights are ANCH early morning. Weeks later there is brittle with anticipation. Snow still lingers, but the sun bites through the frost like a promise of spring. A lone hawk circles above the plain. Inside the house, Cartwright and Elan finish boarding the windows. Voice dash over Cartwright. They came once with greed. They'll come again with fire, and this time they won't leave without blood. .int. Barn. Moments later, Kinna braids twine with trembling fingers. Her arm is still bandaged, but she moves with intent. She ties knots like their prayers. Cartwright enters, holding an old Confederate saber. Cartwright, if we're to die, we'll die with more than ghosts around us. Kinta looks at the blade. She nods once. Yard that day 3 stand before the ranch house, surveying their crude defenses, trapdoors in the barn, hay bales packed with glass and pitch, oil-filled lanterns rigged to tip and ignite, rusty rifles cleaned and loaded, a short bow strung tight. Elan hands it to Cartwright. Elan, your rifle will jam in the wind. The bow listens to silence. Let it speak. Cartwright hesitates, then takes the bow, tests its pull. Kinna sharpens a stake, hands shaking. Cartwright kneels beside her. Cartwright softly, you don't have to do this. She looks at him, shakes her head. Then presses a small wooden carving into his palm, a bear, carved from pine. She stands and walks away. Cartwright watches her go, swallowing the knot in his throat. .ext. Tree line. Night falls, searchlight flickers in the distance. 6 riders, maybe more. Shadows move like phantoms along the ridge. Wolves howl from behind the hills. A warning or a welcome. .int. Ranch house. Later that night, Cartwright sits with Elan at the table. Tension thick as tar. Cartwright, you ever been scared? Elan, only once. A pause. Cartwright, when? Elan, when she stops singing. Before Cartwright can ask more, a shout outside. Then a gunshot. The siege has begun. .ext. Ranch. Instant house gunfire cracks. Bullets split fence posts. The air stinks of oil and sweat. Cartwright fires from a rooftop hole. Elan slides between shadows, loosing arrows that whisper death. One bandit ignites a torch, throws it toward the barn. Kinna rushes from cover, tackles him, drives a stake into his side. She screams. He screams louder. Another bandit charges. Elan intercepts. Blade drawn. They clash flesh and bone, the grunts of old war ringing out once more. Cartwright takes a bullet in the leg. He collapses, screaming. Cartwright. Kinna get back inside, but she's gone into the barn. Smoke pours from the roof. A horse screams. She's dragging the fallen colt from the flames. Her skin blisters. Her clothes burn. Cartwright crawls. Useless. Helpless. Elan barrels in, throws a blanket over the girl, and hauls her out. The horse limping behind. .ext. Bar ANCH. Dawn sky burns pink and orange. The barn is half collapsed, smoldering. The attackers lie still, some dead, some fled. Cartwright sits on the porch, blood, kicking his leg. He stares out, blank. Elon stands beside him, looking toward the mountains. Elon, they'll come again. One day. Cartwright nods. Doc Cartwright, maybe, but not today. A silence. Then Cartwright, you could stay. Elon, I'm not meant for fences. He walks toward the tree line. Kenna, wrapped in a blanket, watches him go. He doesn't look back. Int. House. That night Cartwright sits alone. He opens an old wooden box. Inside, a faded photo of his wife and son. He stares a long time. Then, he strikes a match. The photograph curls in flame. Extporch. Later Kenna steps out. Her eyes fall on the ashes. She kneels beside him, takes his hand, then presses it to her chest. Kenna softly ate. Cartwright blinks. The word pierces deeper than any bullet. Cartwright, horseshoe, you don't owe me anything. She shakes her head, then lays her head on his shoulder. Fade to Ext. Ranch land. Spring green buds stretch from thawed soil. Bird song returns. Cartwright kneels in the dirt beside a small native boy, Kenna's cousin, teaching him to plant corn. They laugh. The child points to a worm wriggling from the dirt. Cartwright smirks. In the distance. Wolves run the ridge, but they don't come closer. They're watchers now. Voice over. Cartwright, I bought her with silver, but she gave me back something. No war, no land, no woman ever could. Peace. Fade to black. Call to action. In a land torn by war and silence, trust can be the most dangerous gift. But sometimes, it's the only thing that saves us. If the story moved you, share your thoughts below. What would you have done in Cartwright's place? Like, subscribe, and join us next time for more untold frontier stories that shape the soul of the Wild West.